Baylor Bears, what are we doing here? Oh, is it time, you think, to open up the conversation about Dave Aranda? I've broken down a lot of the teams that are in the Big 12 this week and talked about where they stand. And for Baylor, you've now lost 2 straight games, one to Texas State, one to Utah. And I want to say this first about Baylor. The effort against Utah was great. The effort was great. The way you lost the game was not. You put it on cruise control. You tried to play conservatively, tried to play not to lose. And in the end, you lost to Utah in a game that you probably should have won down the stretch. Somebody said you were Utah. I think Dave Aranda said at his press conference, almost, Utah escaped with one. They did. If you watched the game, you saw Baylor outplayed Utah, albeit very slim, for 3 quarters. And they got dominated in the 4th quarter. This is a program that won a Sugar Bowl and a Big 12 championship a couple of years ago, and now has fallen from grace to the point you lost to Texas State. You gave away a win to Utah late in the game. And now you're talking about firing a coach who has the most wins of any coach in program since the 90s, in the program since the 90s, in his first 38 games, 20-18. That's how bad Baylor's been historically, by the way. You also have a head coach who, in the postgame, I like Dave Aranda. I'm going to play some clips here in a second of questions that I asked him in his press conference on Monday. But a coach in the postgame press conference on Saturday, who when somebody was like, hey, Dave, what do you think about the last second of that game? Let's ask about the last second. The pass interference no call. He was like, I could see it. When the refs told me there was 1 second, there was a gleam in their eye. And it's like Dave's demeanor changed. And he said, effectively, like, those are the moments you live for. There's such big moments in college football. It was so awesome to be part of that moment. What are we talking about? Moments to be a part of? You got 1 second left on the clock in a game. You're down by 7. That you were up by double digits a second ago. You're up by 2 scores a second ago. And now there's a gleam in your eye with a second to go. You shouldn't be in a situation where there's a gleam in your eye with a second to go. You should be in a situation where you've won the football game handedly, where you've taken care of business. But Baylor football and the whole taking care of business thing has not really worked out. The team is 0-6 in its last 6 games, with losses to Texas State and Air Force. Good for their respective, divisions, conferences, wherever they are. Bad compared to the Big 12. Not good. Not good. I asked Dave, 6 straight losses. Do you feel like this is spiraling? How do you keep morale up? And I asked him about the false starts. The offensive line has false started 10 times in 2 games. What is your offensive line coach doing? Here's what Dave had to say.
Dave, you talked after the Air Force game and some recruiting losses about how to keep this from spiraling. Mm-hmm. Now it's 6 consecutive losses. Mm-hmm. How do you keep tangibly the morale with the team where it needs to be?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think from the inside in talking to the team, they can feel the improvement. I think going into the first game with Texas State, there wasn't very few people, I think, that saw that coming. And so I think the inexperience and just the nervousness and the anxiousness got a hold of us, and we couldn't get it shook for a half, and it was too much, and defensively could never really recover. And then you look at this last game, just to attack it the way we did is what I would have wanted to expect in the first game. And so to be able to kind of narrow the focus and to continue to up the quality of the work that we do, to have the energy and the edge, but the execution to be upped, and then to increase the speed and to play faster and to play more confident. I think those are things that they feel, and they can sense that. And so it's a matter of trying to, again, eliminate the distractions and stay focused on what's right ahead of us, because I think they feel some momentum, however slight, and I understand from the outside, I totally see it, but I think they can see the improvement.
You mentioned the false starts. Mm-hmm. Is that something that's on the staff, on the players? Are there repercussions in the midweek for that? Where do you sit?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's everybody. I think, we have a cadence at home, we have a cadence on the road. It's been a big off-season project because we struggled to really have any variation with the cadence last year. And I think people jumped the cadence and took advantage of the fact that there was little variation in the cadence. And so now to have it and to be struggling with it to this degree at this point in the season is disappointing. And so, I think they're talking about that right now as we speak offensively on do we go to a road cadence, when you're at home, and ways to simplify it and all of it. And so I think it's a big factor. I think the other part too is, you got a new quarterback, you got a new center that's for the first time really kind of being a center. And I think, I look at Clark, and he's one of the leaders for the offense. He makes all the calls. He's kind of the grown-up in the room with the offensive line. I think about everything that's on his shoulders. And then on top of the cadence, there's a lot for him. So are we putting too much on him? Those are things that we're working through.
That was Dave Aranda in the Monday press conference. I'm not going to attack his personality, as so many people have done. They've been like, oh, he's so boring. Oh, I can't listen to him. Oh, it's terrible. I'm not going to do that because nobody was saying that in the Sugar Bowl. Nobody's saying any of that. The only comment that I can give on that is that I will give on that because everybody's got a different personality. Tom Landry wasn't screaming in your face. The only thing that I can give you with that is I bet it's tougher for him to fire his team up. I bet it's tougher for him to keep morale up because so many times his players are wondering how to decipher what their head coach is telling them, because a lot of times the stuff he says goes over my head. So if you're an 18-year-old kid in that football program, I'd like to see how that interaction goes. That's the thought that I'll pose there. It's tough for me the time I've spent around him to say Dave Aranda is going to get fired this season. I don't want to see him get fired. That's not my goal here. But the conversation is open about the future of the Baylor football program and about whether or not Dave Aranda spearheads the future of the Baylor football program. Because right now, it doesn't look good. The trajectory is bad. The recruiting has been bad. The NIL stuff has been confusing. We don't know if it's good or bad. Nobody will really tell us. Most people are saying it's bad, but then Baylor is saying it's good. I think Baylor fans are running out of patience. 10 years ago, they learned how to win. Baylor fans learned what it feels like when you win games. They learned what it feels like when you don't settle. And now Baylor fans are having to settle again in year 4 for losses to Texas State and a game where you're up by double digits on a really, really good Utah team, and you let it fall through your fingertips. Utah won that game in the fourth quarter, but the first 3 quarters were certainly Baylor's. And in the end, it didn't matter. You're 0-2. If Baylor beats Texas State and loses to Utah the same way they did, you think, all right, Utah's really good. This is still an 8-win team. You lost to Texas State. What's the ceiling for Baylor now? Oh, 6-6 would be crazy. That'd be a heck of a way to salvage the season. A 6-4 finish in the last 10 games after you've gone 0-6 in your last 6. I think Baylor fans are getting a little fed up here. Can't really blame them. What are you going to do, Dave? Ball's in your court. Ball's in your court. Not mine. That's just been, it always will be. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. I love you guys. 10,000 subscribers. You think I'm crazy? Am I crazy for saying that? For saying we can actually do that by the end of this year? I don't know. I'd like to try. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. Thanks again for making it your first listen every single day. Doce Grande.